The bus rolled through the city like a tired animal, shaking and humming as it swallowed stop after stop. Inside, the air felt warm and heavy, mixed with perfume, lunch smells, and damp coats. People stood close, holding rails, staring at phones, or looking past each other like strangers in a hurry. Near the middle door stood a boy named Noah, small for his age, quiet eyes, school bag pressing into his shoulder. He kept his feet planted, knees stiff, because the bus jumped every time it hit a bump. Noah had learned how to stay invisible, not because he wanted to, but because life taught him that being noticed could bring trouble. He watched the streets slide by, shops and walls painted with signs, and he counted the stops in his head to stay calm. Noah had gotten on early, when the seats were still open, but he did not rush for the best spot. He took a seat near the aisle, not too close to anyone, and kept his hands folded on his bag. At the first few stops, more people climbed in, and the bus filled fast, like water pouring into a cup. A man in a suit squeezed past without saying "excuse me," a student laughed loudly, and someone's music played from a small speaker. Noah did not complain, he only tightened the strap on his bag and looked down. He thought about his mother Lena, who worked long hours and came home with tired shoulders and gentle eyes. She always said, "Keep your manners, keep your heart, even when the world forgets to be kind." At the next stop, the doors opened with a sharp hiss, and a cold wind rushed in. An elderly lady stepped up slowly, one careful step at a time, her cane tapping the floor like a clock. Her coat was neat but old, and her hands trembled as she held the rail to balance herself. She looked around for a seat, but every seat was taken, and the standing crowd blocked the aisle. Some people glanced at her and then looked away, as if the act of seeing her came with a cost. A young man kept staring at his screen, a woman turned her shoulder, and a few faces stayed blank. The lady's eyes showed effort, not anger, like someone used to carrying weight without asking for help. Noah saw her clearly, and something in him moved before he could think too much. He stood up and stepped aside, making space with a quiet respect that felt natural to him. He pointed to the seat and gave a small smile, not big, not loud, just enough to say, "Please sit here." The elderly lady paused, surprised. Then her face softened in a way that made her look younger for a second. She lowered herself carefully, cane resting against her knee, and she let out a slow breath as the seat took her weight. "Thank you, dear," she said, voice thin but warm, like a blanket that has been used for many winters. Noah nodded and moved back to stand near the pole, letting other people slide past him without pushing. A few passengers noticed, and the bus atmosphere shifted in tiny ways. A woman near the window smiled for a moment, then returned to her thoughts. A man with a hard face muttered something under his breath, not loud enough to catch, but sharp enough to feel. Noah kept his eyes forward, he did not argue, he did not perform kindness for attention. He held the rail, steadying himself as the bus pulled away, and he listened to the city sounds through the glass. His stomach growled, reminding him he had skipped lunch, but he ignored it, because he was used to ignoring needs. The elderly lady looked at him again, not like a judge, not like a stranger, but like someone trying to read a story written on a face. Noah's face had the kind of quiet that comes from responsibility, the kind that does not match a child's age. His shoes were clean but worn, his sleeves a little short, and his hands had small marks from carrying heavy bags. He did not look sad exactly, but there was a carefulness in his eyes, like he measured every moment for danger. The elderly lady noticed how he gave space when people passed, how he did not shove, how he said sorry even when others bumped him. She noticed the way he watched the door at each stop, like he wanted to be ready, like he did not want to be trapped. Her gaze lingered, and her lips pressed together as if she was holding back a thought that had waited a long time to speak. Then she reached into her purse slowly, as if searching for something more important than money or keys. The purse looked heavy, full of small items collected over years, tissues, a little notebook, a pen with a cracked cap. She took out the notebook and opened it to a clean page, steadying it with one hand. The bus jolted, but she kept writing, slow and careful, letters forming like footsteps in snow. Noah noticed her movement but did not stare, because he had been taught that staring could embarrass people. Still, he felt curious. because she kept glancing at him as she wrote, like the words were meant for him. Around them, the bus kept living its loud ordinary life, phones buzzing, brakes squealing, voices rising and falling. But between the boy and the elderly lady, something quiet was being built, like a bridge made from a simple choice. 5 minutes passed, maybe a little more, and the elderly lady finished writing. She folded the paper into a small square and held it between her fingers, like it was fragile and powerful at the same time. When the bus slowed near another stop, she lifted her head and spoke softly, "Son." Noah turned, surprised, because strangers did not usually call him anything kind. Her eyes met his, and there was a seriousness there, not scary, just honest, like a truth waiting at the edge of a door. "Please take this," she said, holding out the folded note toward him. Noah hesitated, then stepped closer and accepted it with both hands, careful not to crumple it. He felt the paper warm from her palm, and he did not know why his throat tightened, but it did. Noah looked down at the note, then back up at her face, searching for a clue. The elderly lady gave a small nod, as if to say, "Not yet, but soon." Noah slipped the note into his pocket without opening it, because something told him to treat it with respect. The bus moved again, and the city lights flickered on in the windows as the afternoon began to fade. Noah stood in the same place, but he felt different, like the air around him had changed shape. He did not know what the note said, but he sensed it carried weight, like a message meant to land at the right time. The elderly lady sat quietly, hands folded, watching the road ahead, while Noah listened to his own heartbeat. Part of him wanted to open the paper right away, and part of him felt afraid, because some words can change how a person sees everything. Noah stayed standing as the bus moved forward, his hand tight on the rail, his mind heavy with questions. The folded note rested in his pocket like a secret that breathed. He could feel it each time the bus swayed, as if it was reminding him that it was there. People stepped on and off, brushing past him, speaking loudly, laughing, arguing, living their busy lives. Noah felt apart from all of it, like he was inside a quiet room while the world shouted outside. He wondered why the lady chose him and what she could possibly want to say. He thought about opening the note right away, but fear held him back. Some messages felt too important to rush, and he somehow knew this was one of them. The elderly lady sat still, her back straight, her eyes forward, but her thoughts far away. She remembered another bus many years ago, another small boy standing when he should have been sitting. That boy had been her grandson, full of quiet kindness, always giving without asking. Life had taken him away slowly, through distance, time, and choices she could not stop. When she saw Noah stand up without being asked, it felt like the past tapping her shoulder. Her heart ached, but it also warmed, because kindness still lived in young people. She did not want to scare him or confuse him, only to leave a seed. A few honest words could grow into strength if given at the right moment. Noah watched her from the corner of his eye, noticing how calm she looked. She did not check her phone or complain about the crowd. Her hands rested on her purse like they trusted the world enough to be still. Noah thought about his own grandmother, who passed away when he was small. She used to tell him stories about courage and respect, even when nothing seemed fair. The memory made his chest feel tight and warm at the same time. He wondered if this lady missed someone too, someone who used to stand like he did. The thought made him feel less alone than he usually felt on crowded buses. When the bus slowed again, Noah felt a sudden push from behind. Someone bumped into him and did not say sorry. Noah adjusted his footing and stayed quiet, like he always did. The elderly lady noticed and frowned slightly, not angry, just thoughtful. She leaned closer and spoke softly so only he could hear. "The world can be rough, but softness is not weakness," she said. Noah looked at her, surprised by the words and the care behind them. He nodded slowly, storing her voice in his memory like a song he might need later. A few stops later, the bus began to thin out. Seats opened, and people spread out, claiming space like tired animals finding rest. Noah could have sat down, but he stayed standing, unsure why. The note still waited, patient and silent. His thoughts wandered to home, to his small room, to his mother Lena counting bills at the table. He wanted to tell her about the lady, about the seat, about the note. He imagined her smile, tired but proud, and the way she would touch his hair. That picture gave him courage, and his fingers finally moved toward his pocket. Noah pulled out the note slowly and unfolded it with care. The paper was simple, nothing fancy, but the words felt heavy. He read them once, then again, letting each line sink deep. The message spoke of kindness, of being seen, of mattering in a world that often looks away. His eyes burned, and he blinked fast, embarrassed by his own feelings. No one had ever told him he mattered without needing something in return. He folded the note again and pressed it against his chest for a moment. In that second, something inside him shifted, like a locked door opening quietly. The elderly lady watched him read, her heart steady but full. She saw his shoulders straighten, his breathing change, his eyes soften. That was all she wanted, not thanks, not praise, just that small change. When the bus reached her stop, she stood carefully, gripping her cane. Noah moved quickly, making space, offering his arm without thinking. She accepted it with a grateful smile, her hand light but trusting. At the door, she turned to him and held his gaze. "Remember who you are," she said, and then she stepped into the crowd. The doors closed, and the bus moved on, carrying Noah forward. He stood alone now, but he did not feel invisible anymore. The note stayed safe in his pocket, a quiet promise he could return to. Outside, the city lights flickered as evening approached. Noah looked at his reflection in the window and barely recognized the boy he saw. He looked the same, but he felt stronger, like he belonged somewhere in the world. He did not know what would happen next or how life would treat him tomorrow. But he knew one thing clearly: kindness had found him, and it was not done yet. Noah walked home that evening with slower steps than usual. The street felt different even though nothing had changed. Cars passed and lights flickered on in windows. The note rested in his pocket like a steady hand on his back. He replayed the lady's voice again and again in his head. Her words had not been loud, but they stayed. For the first time he felt like someone had truly noticed him. That feeling followed him all the way to his door. Inside the small apartment, the air smelled like warm rice. His mother Lena stood near the stove stirring a pot. Her shoulders drooped from a long day of work. When she turned and saw Noah, she smiled softly. He placed his bag down and walked closer than usual. Something about his face made her pause. She asked if he was okay, and he nodded. Then he pulled the note from his pocket with care. Lena read the note slowly, holding it with both hands. Her eyes moved across the paper and then stopped. She read it again as if making sure the words were real. When she looked up, her eyes were shining. She pulled Noah into a gentle hug and held him close. She told him that kindness always finds its way back. She said the world can be unfair, but good hearts still matter. Noah felt taller standing beside her in that moment. The next morning Noah walked to school with the note folded neatly. He did not show it to anyone, but he carried it like armor. The school hallway buzzed with noise and movement. Usually he stayed quiet and slipped into class unnoticed. This time he walked with his head up and shoulders back. When someone bumped into him, he did not shrink. He simply stepped aside, calm and steady. A teacher noticed and gave him a small approving nod. During class, Noah listened more closely than before. He raised his hand once, then again, surprising even himself. His voice was soft but clear when he spoke. A few students turned to look at him with curiosity. He did not feel fear like he usually did. Instead, he felt grounded, like his feet belonged on the floor. The note sat in his pocket, reminding him he mattered. That single thought made learning feel lighter. At lunch, Noah sat alone at his usual table. But this time the quiet did not hurt as much. He watched other students laughing and sharing food. A boy named Sam walked over holding a sandwich. He asked if he could sit, and Noah nodded. They talked about school and buses and small things. It was not deep, but it was real. Noah realized kindness could open doors quietly. Days passed and the note stayed with him always. Whenever things felt heavy he touched it and breathed. He helped a younger student find a classroom. He picked up books someone dropped in the hallway. These were small acts but they felt important. Teachers began to notice his calm and respect. They spoke to him more, asked his thoughts. Noah did not change who he was, he simply allowed himself to exist. One afternoon the school office called Noah by name. His heart beat fast as he walked down the hall. Inside the office stood the elderly lady from the bus. She smiled when she saw him and his breath caught. The principal explained she had been looking for him. She spoke about character and quiet strength. She told them how Noah gave without being asked. The room felt still as her words filled the space. Noah stood there unsure where to look. He felt exposed but also proud in a new way. The lady looked at him and nodded gently. She said the note was only the beginning. She believed in helping young people who showed heart. She asked if Noah would like guidance and support. Noah thought of his mother and nodded slowly. Something bigger than the bus ride was unfolding. When Noah returned home that day, the sky was soft with evening light. He told Lena everything from the office to the lady's offer. She listened with her hand over her mouth. Then she smiled wider than he had seen in years. She told him this was just the start. Not because of luck but because of who he was. Noah went to bed holding the note one more time. He did not know the future, but he finally believed it held space for him. Noah's days began to change in small steady ways that felt real. He woke each morning with purpose instead of worry. The bus rides no longer felt heavy or lonely. He still stood when others needed space, and he still stayed quiet. But inside him there was strength growing like morning light. He remembered the lady's eyes and the note's words often. They guided him without shouting or pushing. He felt ready for whatever the day brought. At school Noah joined the support program the lady arranged. He met mentors who listened instead of judging. They asked about his dreams and his fears. For the first time adults spoke to him with respect. They showed him paths he never knew existed. Learning felt exciting instead of distant. He worked hard not to impress but because he believed. Each small success made his confidence stronger. Lena noticed the changes more than anyone else. Noah smiled more and spoke with calm certainty. He helped around the house without being asked. They talked in the evenings about hopes and plans. Bills were still there and life was still difficult. But laughter returned to their small home. Lena felt proud in a quiet, deep way. She knew kindness had opened a door for her son. One afternoon Noah saw the elderly lady again. This time she was not on the bus. She sat at a park bench feeding birds. Noah approached with respect and greeted her warmly. She smiled like she had been waiting. They talked about school and the city and small joys. She told him kindness grows when shared. Noah listened carefully, storing every word. As months passed, Noah became someone others noticed. Teachers trusted him and students respected him. Sam became a close friend and they studied together. Noah helped younger kids feel safe and seen. He never forgot where he came from. The note stayed folded in his bag always. It reminded him of the power of small choices. It reminded him that goodness matters. One rainy evening Noah rode the bus again. A tired woman stood holding a child close. Noah stood and offered his seat without hesitation. The woman thanked him with tired eyes. The child smiled and Noah felt warmth inside. He did not expect anything in return. He only knew this was who he was now. Kindness had become his language. Years later Noah would look back on that moment. He would remember the bus and the seat. He would remember the lady and her note. Those small moments shaped his path. They taught him that respect changes lives. That quiet actions speak louder than noise. That one choice can ripple through time. And that everything can change in a single ride. Noah carried these lessons into his future. He worked hard and helped others rise. He stayed humble and grateful for each chance. Lena watched him grow with joy and pride. The city stayed busy and loud around them. But Noah moved through it with calm strength. All because he chose kindness once. And the world answered back with meaning.